Hello friends, income from house property. There are 2-3 points, very important points, which normally people do not know while calculating income from house property. Rental income received in the hands of owner of the property is charged to tax under the head income from house property. But if a person receives rent but he is not the owner of the property, in that case such rent received in his hands is not an income from house property for him. This income he has to show under the head income from other sources or as business income. Take an example of subletting. If Mr. B has taken a house on rent from Mr. A and is paying rent to Mr. A, so in the hands of Mr. A, such rent is an income from house property and this income will be taxed accordingly. Now, in turn, Mr. B has let out the same property to Mr. C. The rent received by Mr. B from Mr. C is not an income from house property because Mr. B is not the owner of the property. So for B, this income will be charged to tax under the head income from other sources or as business income. Now there is a concept of deemed owner under Income Tax Act and for computation of income under the head income from house property. There are some situations where you are not the owner of the property, but still for the income tax purposes you will be deemed as owner of the property. Take an example, you have transferred your house property to your spouse or to your minor child. Now, you are not the registered owner of the property. Your spouse or your child has become the owner of the property. Now, you are transferred to them without taking an adequate consideration. You just transfer out of affection or love. In that case, the income received, the rent received from such property by your spouse or by your child will be an income for you. It won't be an income for them. So even though you are not the registered owner of the property, the rent received by them will be an income for you and it will be added to your total income. Likewise, if you have taken a property on lease for more than 12 years, lease period is more than 12 years, and this property you have let out and you are receiving rent, this rent will also be form part of your income, even though you are not the registered owner of the property. Another example is a member of cooperative society or a company is allotted houses under house building scheme. He is not the registered owner of the member is not the registered owner of the property, but still if he receives any rent on such from such building, it is his income and he has to pay tax on that income. Under Transfer of Properties Act, also if somebody has acquired property satisfying all those conditions of section 53A of the Transfer of Properties Act, and such acquired property, if he has let out, then the rent received from such property will also be his income, and he will be paying tax on that. Now, sometimes simple question comes whether income received from shop, is it a house property income? Because this head is called income from house property, but I have let out a shop. So for income tax purposes, a building is a house property. Building or land appurtenant to the building are all house properties as far as income tax proceedings are concerned. So a rent received from letting out of shop is also an income from house property. Okay. Another interesting point as far as house property income is concerned is composite rent. When, apart from recovering rent for the building let out, some owner gets rent for the assets provided or the service provided in the building. Asset in the sense like furniture, along with the building, furniture has also been provided to the tenant, or the security service has been provided to the tenant. Now he charges rent for the building and also for the furniture and also for the security service or lift. So all these income which he receives are not the income from house property. We have to see whether the asset provided are separable from the building or not. If it is not separable, then the entire rent received from such building is to be taxed under the head income from other sources or under business income. Nothing will be charged to tax under income from house property. For example, you have let out a building along with the furniture, or you take an example of equipped theatre is there in the house. Now that is inseparable. You cannot separate the theatre from the building. In this case, the rent received from the tenant for this building will not be an income from house property in your hands. It will be taxed as income from other sources or business income if you are doing this letting out business. If it is separable, suppose furniture is there or some television is there, that can be taken out. If tenant doesn't want, you can take the TV out. If it is separable, then the rent received for the building will be charged as income from other sources, and the sum received for the usage of television or for the usage of cot will be your income under the head income from other sources. In the case of services provided like lift or watchman or water supply, along with the building, then the rent received from such building should be bifurcated, and the sum attributable to the use of building alone will be taxed as income from house property, and the other income for the uses of lift or watchman service or water supply will be taxable in your hands under the head income from other sources or business income. Another point is subsequent recovery of unrealized rent. recovery of unrealized rent in the subsequent year will be taxable in your hands in the year of realization, and such income will be taxed after deduction of sum equal to 30% of the unrealized rent. For example, if you have received unrealized rent of year 21-22 in the year 23-24, then it will be taxable in that year after a deduction of 30%, irrespective of the fact whether in the year 24-25 you are the owner of the property or not. The same law applicable for the arrear of rent received in future years. Again, suppose for the year 21-22 arrears of rent was not paid in 21-22 and you not even in 22-23, and then in 23-24 you received the rent, so it will be taxable in your hands whether you are owner of the property or not that time in 23-24. Of course you will get a 30% deduction from the arrear of rent received. One more thing is property taxes or municipal taxes, which normally we deduct from the rent received for the arriving at the tax liability under the head income from house property. This municipal taxes or property taxes can only be reduced when they are really paid. Property tax which is due but not paid during the financial year will not be allowed as deduction. So this is it in this video about income from house property. Thank you.